Ever since the funeral, the house felt like an empty shell. The laughter that once bounced against the walls was gone, and in its place was a silence so heavy that it pressed down on Daniel's small shoulders. At 12 years old, he wasn't ready for this kind of loneliness. His mother's voice had always been his anchor, the soft hum of her lullabies, the gentle way she said his name when he was afraid of the dark. Now all of it felt like a dream slipping away too quickly, leaving him clutching at memories he couldn't hold. The first night without her was unbearable. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the shadows moving across the walls. His father was in the next room, silent as well, but Daniel knew that even though they were both grieving, they grieved differently. His father hid his pain behind closed doors, while Daniel's heart screamed silently for comfort. No good-night kiss, no hand smoothing back his hair, no whisper of sweet dreams, my little star. Unable to sleep, Daniel tiptoed down the hallway toward his mother's room. The door creaked softly as he pushed it open. It was exactly the way she had left it, curtains half-drawn, books stacked neatly on the nightstand, and her slippers tucked by the bed. But what caught Daniel's eyes was the pillow, the one his mother always used. It wasn't just any pillow. It was faded from years of use, the edges worn soft, with little embroidered flowers stitched into the corner. He remembered how she would hug it while reading stories to him, or how she'd rest her head on it when she sat up late, watching over him when he had a fever. The room smelled faintly of her lavender perfume. The scent struck him like a wave, bringing tears to his eyes. With trembling hands, he picked up the pillow, pressed it against his face, and inhaled deeply. His chest tightened as if the smell alone could summon her back. For a moment, in that still room, he could almost feel her arms around him. He carried the pillow back to his own bed, clutching it tightly against his chest. That night, for the first time since she had gone, Daniel managed to close his eyes without sobbing. The pillow became his anchor. The soft fabric seemed to hold her warmth, and when he hugged it close, he pretended she was there, watching over him like always. The next night he did the same, and the next. Soon it became a ritual. Before bed, Daniel would talk to the pillow as though it were his mother. He whispered secrets into it, the way he used to whisper them into her ear. He told it about his day, about how he missed her cooking, about how quiet dinner felt now. Sometimes he would cry into it until the fabric grew damp, but somehow holding it made the pain more bearable. His father noticed but didn't stop him. One evening, as Daniel hugged the pillow while sitting on the couch, his father looked at him with misty eyes and simply said, "If it helps you, son, then keep it close." It was the first time his father had acknowledged their shared loss out loud. But the pillow was more than comfort. It became a connection to memories Daniel feared losing. He remembered the times when she'd sit on the edge of his bed, holding that same pillow, telling him stories about her childhood, how she used to climb trees with scraped knees, how she'd get in trouble for sneaking cookies before dinner. He could almost hear her laughter as she spoke. The pillow, in his young mind, wasn't just fabric and cotton. It was the last part of her that still felt alive. At school, Daniel struggled. The other kids didn't know what to say to him. Some avoided him altogether. Others muttered awkward words of sympathy. He felt like a shadow in the hallways, drifting without belonging. But every day, he knew the pillow was waiting for him at home. He'd rush to his room, throw down his bag, and hug it tight. It smelled less like her now, but in his imagination, it was enough. He refused to let go. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, he would wake up from a dream. Dreams where she was still alive, standing at the kitchen counter or calling his name. Waking up from those dreams was cruel. His chest would tighten, and tears would come before he could stop them. But then his hands would find the pillow, he'd press his face against it, whisper, "I miss you, Mom," and hold on until the ache dulled enough to fall asleep again. The pillow also gave Daniel courage. On nights when the fear of never seeing her again felt too heavy, he remembered how she always told him, "Be brave, my little star. Even when you're afraid, you can shine." Holding the pillow, he whispered those words to himself, as if she were speaking them through the fabric. It became more than comfort. It was a promise he tried to live by. One afternoon, while sorting through some of her belongings, his father found an old photograph tucked inside a book. It was of Daniel as a baby, lying in his mother's arms, and the very same pillow was propped behind them on the couch. When his father showed it to him, Daniel broke down, realizing that this pillow had been a part of their lives for as long as he could remember. It wasn't just his memory clinging to her. It was proof that she had left pieces of herself everywhere, even in something as ordinary as a pillow. Weeks turned into months, and Daniel never missed a night. Friends and relatives who visited often asked why he still kept the pillow so close. Some suggested he should move on, but Daniel didn't care what they thought. To him, the pillow was not about holding on to the past. It was about keeping love alive. It wasn't just a pillow. It was her laughter, her warmth, her safety. It was everything he needed to remind himself that love never truly disappears. And so, every night, as he lay down, Daniel hugged the old pillow close. He closed his eyes and whispered into the silence, "Good night, Mom, sweet dreams." In those moments, though his heart still ached, he felt less alone. The seasons began to change, yet Daniel's ritual with the pillow remained the same. Spring brought blossoms to the garden his mother once adored. Summer painted the days with long golden sunsets. Autumn scattered leaves across the front yard, and winter blanketed the world in quiet snow. Through all of it, the pillow never left his side. It was his constant in a world that felt uncertain and fractured. By now, the faint lavender scent had almost faded, replaced with the smell of laundry soap and Daniel's own tears. Still, he hugged it like it was the most precious thing in the world. To anyone else, it was just fabric, just stuffing. But to him, it was memory stitched into cotton, love woven into every thread. One evening, after a particularly hard day at school, Daniel came home with his shoulders slumped. A group of boys had whispered cruel things behind his back, mocking the way he always seemed distant, or how his eyes often looked red from crying. Mama's boy, they called him, laughing. They didn't understand that he wasn't just missing a mother. He was missing a piece of himself. Daniel didn't fight back. He simply kept quiet, staring at the floor until the laughter stopped. But as soon as he was home, he rushed upstairs, slammed his bedroom door shut, and buried his face into the pillow. He sobbed into it until the fabric grew damp, whispering, "They don't get it, Mom. They don't understand how much I need you." His father found him later, curled up with the pillow, trembling, instead of telling him to be strong or let it go. His father sat beside him on the bed and gently put an arm around him. "Son," he whispered, voice cracking, "I miss her too, every day." It was one of the rare moments where Daniel saw his father's mask of strength slip away, revealing the broken man beneath. For the first time, they grieved together, hugging the pillow between them, as though sharing the last piece of her. That night was a turning point. His father began opening up more, telling Daniel stories about his mother, how she loved to dance in the kitchen when no one was looking, how she once stayed up all night sewing his school costume, how she could never resist singing along to old songs on the radio. These stories painted pictures in Daniel's mind, helping him hold on to the parts of her he had never known. And every time, as he listened, he hugged the pillow tighter, as if storing all the stories inside it. Months later, his school announced a writing contest. The theme was "What makes you feel safe?" At first, Daniel didn't want to participate. Writing about his mother felt too raw, too painful. But as he lay in bed that night, hugging the pillow, he whispered, "What would you say, Mom?" And somehow the answer felt clear. He sat up, turned on his lamp, and began writing. He wrote about the pillow, not just as an object, but as a symbol of his mother's love. He described how hugging it each night was like hugging her, how it gave him courage when the world felt too heavy. He wrote about how safety wasn't always walls or locks or lights. It was love, carried in something as simple as a pillow that smelled like lavender. When he read his essay aloud at school, the room grew quiet. Even the kids who once mocked him sat in silence, listening. By the end, a few of them had tears in their eyes. The teacher hugged him afterward and told him, "Your mother would be so proud." Daniel believed it. For the first time since her passing, he didn't feel ashamed of his grief. He felt strong. As the years passed, the pillow aged with him. Its once bright embroidery grew dull, threads loosening at the edges. The fabric thinned, and the stuffing clumped unevenly inside, but Daniel never considered replacing it. Every night, he still hugged it close, even as he grew taller and older. It became less of a comfort object and more of a sacred relic of love. When he turned 16, his father gave him a small wooden box. Inside were letters, dozens of them, that his mother had written before she passed. She had known her time was short and had written to both Daniel and his father, leaving words for birthdays, advice for the future, and reminders of her love. The first one Daniel opened began with, "My sweet Daniel, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer there to tuck you in, but I hope you know that every time you hug my pillow, I'm hugging you right back." Tears blurred his vision as he clutched the letter in one hand and the pillow in the other. It was as though she knew exactly what he had been doing all along. From that night onward, the pillow became more than just a memory. It became a bridge between her letters and his heart. Whenever he read her words, he held it tightly, as if her love flowed from the ink into the fabric and then into him. By the time Daniel finished high school, the pillow was fragile, fraying at the seams. His father suggested having it restored, but Daniel refused. He didn't want it changed. The war, knout edges and faded scent were part of its story, part of her. On the night before leaving for college, Daniel sat on his bed, holding the pillow one last time in the quiet of his childhood room. He whispered, "I'm scared, Mom, but I'll take you with me, like always." And so he packed it gently into his suitcase. In the dorm, his roommates teased him at first when they noticed the old, tattered pillow. But Daniel didn't mind. He explained with a steady voice what it meant to him. To his surprise, none of them laughed again. Instead, one said softly, "Man, that's beautiful." From then on, the pillow was respected, even in that noisy new world. Through sleepless nights of studying, through heartbreaks and struggles, the pillow remained. It was a quiet witness to his growth, to the boy slowly turning into a man. And though its scent was long gone, Daniel had memorized it in his heart. He no longer needed the smell. The memory alone was enough to keep him close to her. Years later, when Daniel graduated, he carried the pillow in his arms after the ceremony, hidden discreetly under his gown. His father spotted it and smiled through tears. "She was with you the whole time, wasn't she?" he asked. Daniel nodded. Life moved forward, new beginnings, new places, new people, but the ritual never changed. No matter where he went, the pillow always lay on his bed, waiting. Even as the years stretched further from the day he lost her, he never stopped hugging it at night. One evening, now a grown man with a life of his own, Daniel sat in his apartment, holding the pillow in his lap. He thought about all the years, all the nights, all the tears it had absorbed. He realized it wasn't the pillow itself that gave him strength. It was the love behind it, his mother's love, a love that no time, no distance, not even death could erase. He smiled through tears, whispering into the worn fabric the same words he had spoken every night since he was 12. "Good night, Mom, sweet dreams." And in the quiet of his room, though she wasn't there, he felt her love as if she never left.